We're coming to you live on WLIB, 1190 AM in New York. We're streaming to you across the country on a number of platforms. We are live here in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street. Call somebody. Tell them the action is on the air. The Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton is in the house and getting ready to come to you. We're so pleased that we are with you on this Saturday morning, because if it's Saturday, this is where the action is. Our president and founder is the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. The chairman of our board is the Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, senior pastor at Grace Baptist Church in Mount Vernon, New York. I'm Attorney Michael Hardy. We'll be with you throughout the broadcast this morning. We are so pleased to have with us today for our inspirational word segment, Pastor Gabby Cujo-Wilkers. She is from the Double Love Experience in Brooklyn, New York, and we'll be happy to have her with us today. Also, if it's Saturday, you know, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, is in the house. And if it's Saturday, our dear sister and coordinator here at the National Action Network's House of Justice will be back today and gonna ask, what's on your mind? For those of you that don't know why I said she's gonna be back, our coordinator is a newly minted mother, and we're so proud of her. And of course, her daughter, Kitty, we couldn't be more proud. And she'll be back to ask what is going on. And of course, we know there's a lot happening with her. And so we are pleased to have her back. Of course, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton will be here. And, you know, as they always say, you just never know who may be here. So you want to call somebody. You want to tell them the action is on the air. The Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton is in the house and getting ready to come to you. As you all know, every Saturday and Sunday at 5 p.m., we urge you to make sure you're tuning in to MSNBC Politics Nation with Al Sharpton. That's every Saturday and Sunday at 5 p.m. on MSNBC. And of course, the Huddle is here every Monday evening, and they'll be here on Monday evening, 6 p.m., huddling up with the youth of tomorrow. But right now, and for more information, we're going to bring on Dr. Alvin Ponder, Vice President of the New York City chapter.
Thank you, Attorney Hardy. Good morning, brothers and sisters, listeners and viewers. Here is some information to keep you in the know. Reverend Sharpton to deliver eulogy at funeral of 14-year-old killed by stray police bullet. Reverend Al Sharpton will deliver the eulogy on Monday for Valentina Orellana Peralta, the 14-year-old girl who was shot by police who opened fire on a suspect inside a Burlington coat factory in North Hollywood just 2 days before Christmas. Amid a flurry of condolences, including one from President Biden, Reverend Sharpton will join Bishop Noel Jones and attorneys Ben Crump and Raul Ravipudi for a call to justice in the child shooting. Valentina, an immigrant from Santiago, Chile, was killed on December 23rd in a dressing room while shopping for a Christmas dress with her mother. Police responded to the store following reports of an assault inside the store, and once they arrived, they finally shot 24-year-old Daniel Elena Lopez. The community has understandably expressed fury over the shooting and the loss of the teenager. The funeral will take place at the City of Refuge Church at 14527 San Pedro Street in Gardena, California on Monday, January 10th, 2022 at 11 o'clock. Pacific Standard Time. President Biden offered his condolences on the death of Valentina Orellana Peralta. Biden, Harris to travel to Atlanta to push for voting rights. Reverend Sharpton was invited to join President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris in Atlanta on Tuesday as the administration pushed for voting rights. President Biden will deliver a speech in Atlanta that will focus on the need to pass voting rights legislation and is expected to forcefully speak out against ongoing attempts to suppress the vote. The effort, which has been praised by National Action Network, comes a week before the annual Martin Luther King Commemorations. The U.S. Senate is expected to take up voting rights in the next few weeks. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has set a deadline of January 17th, Martin Luther King Day, for the Senate to vote on a rules change if Republicans continue to block voting rights legislation. Good. NAN reacts to sentencing of Ahmaud Arbery's killers. The life sentences of the 3 convicted murderers of Ahmaud Arbery and Brunswick, Georgia is no justice, it's accountability. Reverend Sharpton said when NAN got involved last year supporting the parents and lawyers, the local DA wouldn't even arrest the killers. Today's sentencing shows that results come from sustained movements. Order Righteous Troublemakers, Untold Stories of the Social Justice Movement in America. Pre-order Rev Al Sharpton's latest book, Righteous Troublemakers, Untold Stories of the Social Justice Movement in America, at www.alsharptonbooks.com. The book is available on that website on January 11th and includes profiles of some of the following individuals. Pauli Murray, whose early work informed Thurgood Marshall's legal argument for Brown versus the Board of Education. Claudette Colvin, who refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus months before Rosa Parks did the same. And Gwen Cobb, whose private pain in losing her son, Eric Garner, stoked her public activism against police brutality. Reverend Sharpton also gives his personal take on more widely known individuals, revealing overlooked details, historical connections, and a perspective informed by years of working on the front line of the social justice movement. By the way, Reverend Sharpton will have a book signing today after the rally, Righteous Troublemakers, a great book title. Remembering Sidney Poitier. National Action Network and Rev Al Sharpton extend our sincere condolences to the family of Sidney Poitier, who died on Friday at the age of 94. A legendary actor and activist, Mr. Poitier was the first black man to win an Oscar for Best Actor. Reverend Sharpton said he was to Hollywood what Jackie Robinson was to baseball. He broke the color barrier at the top level. Honoring Professor Lonnie Guinier. National Action Network and Rev Al Sharpton remember Lonnie Guinier, a brilliant legal scholar and longtime professor at Harvard Law School. She died on Friday at the age of 71. Professor Guinier was a staunch supporter of the work of the National Action Network, attending our marches across the years and a panelist at NAN's convention in 2016. Welcome to all of you who have tuned in and joined us also via live stream at www.nationalactionnetwork.net and also live on Facebook at National Action Network. If this is your first time joining us and or if you are not a member of NAN, we welcome you to NAN and invite you to join us and get to the action today. For more information and to join, you may visit again www.nationalactionnetwork.net or call 877-626-4651. Again, that's 877-626-4651. Or text the word NAN, N-A-N, to 59769. Welcome.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ponder. Right now, brothers and sisters, here she is, our dear sister, Katrina Jefferson, coordinator here at the National Action Network's House of Justice, and she wants to know what's on your mind. Good morning, Katrina.
Good morning to you, Attorney Hardy, and good morning to each and every one of you who are here live here at the fantastic House of Justice. To those that are watching by way of live streaming on our Facebook platform or our website, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and to those listening by way of WLIB 1190 AM, Happy New Year and welcome back to another conversation of What's on Your Mind, the second conversation of 2022, and we're excited to be here with you, excited to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your viewpoints. Maybe it's a conversation you overheard during your commute this week or your response to something you saw on the news. Well, we'd love to hear from you here at the National Action Network, and you can email us at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. Again, that email address is whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net, or you may call us here at the network at 877-626-4651. Good morning. Give us your name. Share with us where you're from. Come forward for me. And what's on your mind today?
What's on my mind? First of all, congratulations, having a new baby. Okay, my name is Connie Pennington. I am from the Bronx, and what's on my mind this morning is I just finished the book Rise Up by Rev Dr Al Sharpton. It was empowering, and it was very informative. However, I want to say to him, and there's no however, I want to thank him for making this book accessible to the haves and the have-nots. I got my book from the library. It's not that I'm not going to purchase the new one, but I didn't have it. But I was able to get it from the library. Thank you so much, Al Sharpton.
You are welcome, and guess what? We're having a book signing here today of Righteous Troublemakers. The next one that will be released, as Dr. Alvin Ponder announced earlier, on the 11th, but we are having a book signing here at the House of Justice immediately following the Saturday Action Rally, and I'm going to gift you one today. So if you stay after, I'll make sure that you get one so you have it for your library, and you can get it signed by Reverend Sharpton immediately following the rally today. And to those that are listening, we will be here at 11:30 a.m., with the book signing. Reverend Sharpton will be here, and we have plenty of copies available, so you still have time to get here and be in the house and be one of the first to get a copy of Righteous Troublemakers. The next, we have something shared by Vicki Kresh. I'm not sure if she's here today, but if she is, I'm reading your comments today. Dear Nan family, after hearing Rev and Attorney General for Black America speak of the details of Valentina's death, I read this article. My heart grieves for her mom and dad, her family, her friends. My heart grieves for the man described in this article. If Officer Jones violated his training and he is charged under California law, I pray he truly is the man described in this article. This man wouldn't want to cause Valentina's parents the pain of a trial. He would plead guilty and be the change he wants to see in the world. I love you all very much. Best. And that's from Vicki Kresh. And she was referencing a New York Times article from December 30th titled, Officer Whose Bullet Killed a 14-year-old Girl Wanted to Change the Police. Okay, and so anyone who wants to reference that, it's in the New York Times for December 30th. The next comes from Rodney Jones from Queens, New York, who's here in the house with us. And the title of his thoughts, Money Games, The Shame of College Football. Money and the pursuit of more money have become the driving force behind all sports, especially college football. Winning might breed character, but it definitely sells tickets, secures lucrative television contracts, attracts wealthy corporate sponsors, lines the pockets of sports administrators, and pleases alumni and fans. The financial rewards from winning help schools build the best athletic facilities and recruit the best coaches and athletes. The football and athletic program of historically black colleges and universities are outside of that paradigm. Many are struggling to survive, though as a whole, they consistently produce a disproportionate share of black leaders and college graduates and align their resources with the valued priorities of sustaining quality and competitive academic programs. The better schools remain strong academic institutions, but for all HBCUs, sports programs are difficult to operate under such circumstances. The combination of integration and aggressive recruiting tactics as I flip the page. Predominantly white schools have drained them of the monopoly on the best black athletes they once enjoyed. And with that exodus, the resources and cash flow of their athletic programs are inadequate for competing in the money market of major college football. One controversial remedy for generating revenue is the practice of scheduling money games. These money games are those that HBCUs schedule with teams from power conferences, whose coaches, athletes, and facilities are superior, who want an easy win and are willing to pay for it. The Gladiators of Rome had better odds against the Lions than does an HBCU in competition with a major football program. In some of the games, the margin is so large at halftime that a mercy rule is invoked, allowing for a shortened second half, a rule used almost exclusively in elementary schools to spare humiliation and emphasize sportsmanship. In other words, the money game scores are often misleading. They could be worse. No justice, no peace. And that is from Rodney Jones. And last, I'm going to share because we're doing the book signing today, Rev Sharpton did an op-ed from, I believe it was in Blavity.com, entitled, Why These Unsung Righteous Troublemakers from Pauli Murray to Claudette Colvin Deserve Their Flowers. In the ongoing struggle for freedom, civil rights, fairness, and social justice, it's sometimes difficult to pause and reflect upon all the progress that has been achieved. While history books and mainstream media may mention the significant names of the movement, there are countless unsung heroes who helped push this nation towards greater equality and a more perfect union. Whether called upon by circumstances or simply rising to the occasion when faced with injustice, they helped galvanize, organize, and inspire others in the process. It is that collective, what I like to refer to as righteous troublemakers, who have fought the good fight, and it's time that we honor them. Paul Murray was the first black person to receive a JSD degree from Yale Law School, a founder of the National Organization for Women, a priest, a scholar, and an activist. In fact, her early work informed Thurgood Marshall's legal argument for Brown versus the Board of Education against school segregation. Before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat and moved to the back of the bus, there was Claudette Colvin who did the same. She was just 15 years old when police hauled her off of a bus, put her in handcuffs, and jailed the young teenager for refusing to move and give her seat to a white person. The names Claudette Colvin and Pauli Murray have been largely left out of coverage of the civil rights struggle, and we must pay homage to their valor. These brave individuals are just two examples of the multitude of social justice warriors that I highlight in my book, Righteous Troublemakers, Untold Stories of the Social Justice Movement in America. They sacrificed, they fought for the greater good, and it's time the world knows their names. The late, great Congressman John Lewis used to tell the world to get into good trouble, necessary trouble. Throughout history and in our present era, there are untold members of folks who have done precisely that in order to advance equal justice for all. Whether working in civil rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, environmental justice, criminal justice reform, and more, they answered the call, often risking their lives and livelihoods in the process. Righteous Troublemakers, Untold Stories of the Social Justice Movement in America is dedicated to them. Even in some of the darkest moments, their courage, strength, resilience, and focus serve as inspiration to us all. And that concludes this weekend's conversation of What's on Your Mind. Keep in mind, everything you heard here was simply the thoughts and the viewpoints of the contributors and do not reflect those of the National Action Network directly. And we invite you to interact with us 24 hours a day by emailing us at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. Again, you can email the National Action Network your thoughts at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net, or you may call us at 877-626-4651. Back to you, Attorney Hardy.
All right. Thank you, Katrina, for What's on Your Mind. Right now, brothers and sisters, it's Saturday, so our musical director, Tyrone Richardson, is in the house.
Abundantly, above all you could ask wonderful thing according to the power that worketh in you. God is able to do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. Oh, so glad to know he is. God is able to do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. Oh, yes, he is. Anybody know he's able? Oh, he's able. He's able. Yeah, he's able. He's able. God's able. Yes, he is. He's able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all we can ask or think. God is able. Yes, he is. He's able. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. Don't you dare give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able.
That is our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, accompanied by Chris Garland. Brothers and sisters, we are coming in the house. And what does that mean? That means we're coming to talk about the committee works inside the House of Justice, where the action is happening all of the time. And one of the premier committees, of course, and they do such important work, is our Deaf Club and the interpreters here at National Action Network. And we're so pleased today to have Camera Price, a member of the interpreters team here at National Action Network, and she's going to come to you and talk about their work right now.
So good morning, National Action Network family and friends. My name is Camera Price. I am a member of the Interpreter Advocates Committee and the Deaf Club, led by Tanya Ingram and Christine Dudley. Now, we continue to hold our Deaf Club meetings. However, we have suspended the free sign language classes for now, but we also continue to host workshops and events on Zoom. We also continue to interpret the Saturday morning rallies from our Zoom platform, and that allows for our deaf members all over to virtually be a part of the National Action Network audience. So no, this pandemic has not stopped us, but it has made us see that this is a time for learning, evaluating, and becoming creative. Technology affords us an opportunity to expand our services, making sure our deaf members continue to advocate for their community, and it also brings together interpreters from around the country as brainstorming agents, seeking ways to support the National Action Network and create new interpreting initiatives. We continue to coordinate NAN's Global Hands Sign Language Interpreting Team for special NAN events. For example, the Global Hands Interpreting Team will be interpreting for the annual Martin Luther King Breakfast, which is a national event held in Washington, D.C. Now, I'm a member of several organizations that focus on public service, and as an interpreter, I am honored to be in the number with the Deaf Club, making strides in social action. The Deaf Club has stayed in the fight. We are collaborating currently with the Mayor's Office, the Police Department, and other deaf organizations to bring important information to the deaf community. We continue to be a leading force for justice and accessibility for many. So on behalf of the Interpreters and Advocates Committee, we are so proud and grateful to have the opportunity to provide our services to the deaf and hard of hearing communities, regardless of race or creed, and always with professional integrity and proficiency. So if you would like to join the National Action Network's House of Justice Deaf Club, we can be reached by email at hojdeafclub@aol.com. That's hojdeafclub@aol.com. Or you may leave your contact information at the House of Justice by calling 212-690-3070, and we'll connect with you soon. Again, we thank you and pray God's continuous blessings be upon you.
All right, thank you so much, Sister Price, for the work of the interpreters here in the House of Justice and National Action Network. They really do tremendous work. Right now, once again, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson.
Though the storms keep on raging in my life, and sometimes it's hard to tell the night from day. Still that hope that lies within is reassured as I keep my eyes upon the distant shore. I know He'll lead me safely to that blessed place He has prepared. But if the storm don't cease, and if the winds keep on blowing in my life, my soul has been anchored in the Lord. Oh, though the storms keep on raging in my life, and sometimes it's hard to tell the night from day. Still that hope that lies within is reassured as I keep my eyes upon the distant shore. I know He'll lead me safely to that blessed place He had prepared. But if the storms don't cease,
once again, Minister Tyrone Richardson, our musical director, in the house today, accompanied by Chris Garland. Brothers and sisters, it is our honor and privilege today to have for our inspirational word Pastor Gabby Cujo Wilkes, Double Love Experience out of the Republic of Brooklyn.
Good morning, National Action Network. How you doing, House of Justice? All right, I think you're doing a little better than that. How y'all doing, House of Justice? All right, that sounds like the Harlem I know. Good morning. My name is Reverend Gabby Cujo Wilkes. I bring you greetings from the Double Love Experience Church in Brooklyn, New York, where I serve as the founding co-lead pastor with my husband, Reverend Andrew Wilkes, who's here with me today. And we're so excited to be here, amen. I want to extend my gratitude to the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. Can we salute him real quick? Amen, our fearless leader, as well as the chairman of the board, Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson. It's such an honor to be here with you all. Well, y'all know we got to get right into this message so that I don't take too much of your time. And so our scripture for today is just one verse. It comes from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. I'm going to read it in your hearing now, or if you've got your Bibles, go ahead and turn with me. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, I got some folks who know this, of love and a sound mind. Pray with me. Oh God, your people have gathered. We're so excited to hear what it is you want to say. Preach, Lord. Your people are gathered. Your people are listening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. My sermon title this morning is Aware and Unafraid. Aware and Unafraid. Beloved, what a week. Here we stand, having lived through the first week of 2022, and my, oh my, what a week it has been. Look at your neighbor and say, what a week. This week, we saw the one-year mark of a political insurrection and attempted coup on our nation's capital. What a week. This week, we received word that our beloved Sidney Poitier took his rest at the age of 94, and our dear Professor Lonnie Guinier took her rest at the age of 71, both of whom now sit in our great cloud of witnesses as ancestors. What a week. This week, we received news of sentences of life in prison for the 3 white male murderers of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. What a week. This week, we saw ABC team up with folks like Will Smith, Sean Carter, Adrian Warren, Sekou Laidlow, and others to bring us the story of Mamie Till Mabley in that new series, Women of the Movement. What a week. This week, we saw the documentary Let the World See with folks like Michelle Obama, Nia Long, and Michael Eric Dyson telling the stories of black families migrating up from Mississippi, finding their way to Chicago. What a week. This week, we learned of a new IHU variant of COVID-19 springing up in the south of France at the same time that the Omicron variant, or as the Omarion variant, as Black Twitter likes to say, was pillaging through our New York City boroughs, causing multi-hour lines for testing and having Americans at large calling out sick in droves. What a week. This week, elected officials across our nation took their post as newly inaugurated mayors and council persons and more. What a week. And this week, y'all, we ready ourselves for the newest book of our own Reverend Al Sharpton, Righteous Troublemakers, Untold Stories of the Social Justice Movement in America. Somebody ought to holler with your mask on. What a week. What a week. And beloved, though it has been a trying week, though some of the things I've shared are cause for alarm and concern, I'm here to tell you that it is possible for us to be both aware and unafraid. I want to give you 2 tools for becoming aware and unafraid. Tool number 1, you've got to know the difference between a symptom of fear and a spirit of fear. The Bible says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but y'all, that does not mean that we will not be fearful at times. Have I got a witness? What it means is that we must not allow fear to paralyze us. I submit to you today, National Action Network, that there is a distinction between spirit and symptom. Symptoms are the visual indicators of a condition. Symptoms symptoms may look like coughing or sneezing, and that could be as mundane as a sinus infection or as bad as a terminal case of COVID-19. Every symptom does not lead to the same diagnosis. A symptom is not a conclusive description of what you're going through, but it gives indication that something is happening in your body. So when you find yourself afraid, beloved, that's all right. That's just an indication in your body that something is happening that requires your attention. To be black in America means you're going to have some symptoms of fear every now and again. You might feel some butterflies in your stomach when you speak truth to power. You might have to talk to yourself when you feel overwhelmed. You might be uncomfortable when folks try to silence your voice. But y'all, those are just symptoms of fear. Those are just indications that we live in a racist society. And God is not mad at the symptoms of fear that we face. Those symptoms represent you being honest about the kind of world that we live in. Have I got a witness? And the toll that it can take on black and brown bodies, on both our physical and mental health. But alternatively, beloved, if you have a spirit of fear, Houston, we've got a problem. Because a spirit of fear is far different from a symptom of fear. A spirit of fear is an internal possession of your personhood. To have a spirit of fear is to have your very soul captivated by fear and timidity. Symptoms can be diagnosed. Symptoms can be treated, but spirits have got to get cast out in the name of Jesus. Symptoms can be given antibiotics, and 7 to 10 days later, you'll be all right. But spirits will linger the rest of your life if you do not address them. A spirit of fear will overwhelm you. A spirit of fear will consume you. A spirit of fear will keep you from being the person God created you to be. But take heart, beloved. I came from Brooklyn to Harlem to let you know that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. So tool number one, if you're going to be afraid, if you're going to be aware and unafraid, is you've got to know the difference between a symptom of fear and the spirit of fear. But tool number two is that you've got to use your mind. Don't ever let anybody tell you that your faith has to be at odds with your mind. God does not force us to turn over our sense of reason when we trust him. On the contrary, in exchange for a spirit of fear, God grants us a sound mind. Theologian Paul Tillich says in his books, Dynamics of Faith, that reason is the precondition of faith. Faith is the act in which reason reaches ecstatically beyond itself. And our ancestors have reached beyond their fear and created new paradigms of possibility for each and every one of us through their faith. And I got a bone to pick with us, y'all. There's something that upsets me a bit, something I got to get off my chest, and that is we don't give enough credit to how the generations before us used their minds. The minds of our ancestors said, before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to the Lord and be free. The minds of our ancestors said, steal away to Jesus. The minds of our ancestors said, ain't I a woman? The minds of our ancestors said, open casket, let the world see what they did to my baby. The mind of our ancestors said, what to the slave is the 4th of July. The minds of our ancestors say, give light and the people will find their way. The minds of our ancestors said, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. The minds of our ancestors said, I am a man. The minds of our ancestors said, no justice, no peace. The minds of our ancestors said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. The minds of our ancestors said, we shall overcome someday. The minds of our ancestors said, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. The minds of our ancestors said, I can't give up now. I've come too far from where I started from. The minds of our ancestors said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Faith does not have to take the place of using your mind, but rather your mind ought to stimulate your faith. I think I need to say that again. Faith does not have to take the place of using your mind, but rather your mind ought to stimulate your faith. That's why old folks used to say, when I think of the goodness of Jesus, and they get happy right there because our minds are powerful. Your mind has the capacity to be conditioned, so condition your mind to remember the faith that dwells within. Faith that it won't always be like this. Faith that reminds us that we still serve a God who sits high and looks know, faith that demands that we use our minds to process the injustices of our community. Faith that believes that God is not finished with us yet. Your mind ought to stimulate your faith. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You don't have to see it to believe it's possible, but in my mind's eye, I see newness breaking forth. In my mind's eye, I see beauty for ashes. In my mind's eye, I see hope over despair. In my mind's eye, I see the lion laying down with the lamb. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God. That's faith with your mind. And while I'm encouraged by our ancestors, before I take my seat, I got to drop in a millennial for y'all because I'm a millennial myself. And Pulitzer Prize winner Kendrick Lamar put it like this. He told us that if God's got us, then we gonna be all right. So can I leave you, Nan? We gonna be aware and unafraid, because if God's got us, we gonna be all right. Pandemics may abound, but we gonna be all right. I may not get there with you, but we gonna be all right. What they meant for evil, God turned it around for my good. That's why we can say boldly and unapologetically that we are aware but unafraid.
Our dear sister and pastor, Gabby Cujo Wilkes, Double Love Experience in the House of Justice this morning. Right now, brothers and sisters, the Change Ensemble under the direction of our musical director. Change Ensemble under the direction of Minister Tyrone Richardson and further accompanied by Chris Garland. Right now, brothers and sisters, I want you to get on your feet. If you're at home, I want you to put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice, no justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 Fist bump the person next to you, tell them you love them. Never give up and never give in. Your change will come. Keep it down within. Troubles and trials will last always. With God on our side, nothing but bright. Hold on, be strong. A better day is coming and it won't take too long. Change will come. Change will come. Change will come. Your change will come. Your change will come. Your change will come. Your change will come. Never give up and never give in. Your change will come. Keep it down within. Troubles and trials won't last always. With God on our side, nothing but brighter days. Hold on, be strong. A better day is coming and it won't be too long. Your change will come. Change will come. Change will come. Oh, your change will come. Your change is gonna come. I know it will. Your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Oh, your change will come. Oh, your change is gonna come. Oh, change will come. Oh, change will. Yesterday, we got the word that validates our theme song. Because I remember it was not too many months ago, 11 months to be exact, when I was called by the family of Ahmaud Arbery. And Ahmaud Arbery's mother and father and attorney Ben Crump told us about what had happened to Ahmaud. The local DA in Brunswick said there was no reason to arrest these men and that they operated in self-defense. I put them on my television show on MSNBC, and we started rallying out of our Atlanta office of National Action Network. And it got so other groups got involved, it got so till finally even the governor of Georgia, who we fought, Brian Kemp, said, no, these guys ought to be arrested, and another prosecutor took the case, indicted them. And then we saw that they chose a jury, 11 whites and 1 black in a city with 52% of the population black. And we said they'd stack the jury. We thought that maybe we could not get justice. But I sat in the courtroom despite the objection of the lawyers. And I was sitting with the mother and father when that mostly white jury convicted those 3 men. And I looked yesterday, snowed in New York, couldn't get there. But I looked and watched those 3 men stand in that courtroom that never thought they'd ever be arrested for killing a young black man in Georgia. And I thought about how the mother and father never gave up, never surrendered, They understood if you stand for what's right, your change will come.
Your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Oh, change will come. Oh, change will.
I got word also yesterday of the death of the great Sidney Poitier. And I remember as a child growing up watching his movies, Lilies of the Field, To Serve with Love, on and on and on, In the Heat of the Night. You got to be a certain age to know them. And I remember the pride that my mother had when he became the first black to win an Oscar. And as years went by and I grew and became known in my own right, I was able to meet him several times. And Harry Belafonte and I have been very close. And Harry told me many stories about getting Sidney to do this and that in civil rights, and told Sidney when we would meet certain things. And I remember how it was so amazing to them that Barack Obama gave him the Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in this country. And Harry Belafonte said, when Sidney and I started in Harlem in the Actors Guild, we never thought we'd see a black get an Oscar, less known be the President of the United States. But if you keep marching, if you keep going, if you keep voting, if you keep registering, no matter how dark it looks, you can go from the lilies of the field to the White House with a black president, and your change will come.
Your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Do you believe it? Your change will come. Oh, your change is gonna come. Oh, change will come. Oh, change will. Oh, your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Your change will come. Oh, your change. Oh, change will. Oh, change
National Action Network Change Choir, give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here live in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the village of Harlem. And for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York and watching us on various media platforms around the country, we are happy to be with you for another Saturday morning to give our report on where the action is. Let's give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. Our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, and our minister of the drums, Brother Chris Gardner. Chris Garland got on his mask, but I still know who he is. Let me say we dedicate the broadcast this morning in honor, certainly, of Sidney Poitier, our great actor, and certainly historic figure, but also to the memory and legacy of Attorney Dr. Lonnie Guinier, who passed on yesterday. Lonnie Guinier was a legal giant. She did our convention about 2 years ago, and we're sorry for her passing. Many of you remembered that she was nominated by President Clinton to be Attorney General, and they raised a ruckus, and she was denied that, but never ever shrunk in her duties as one of our great legal minds. Give a hand to the memory of Lonnie Guinier. And I want to say that I'm going to be leaving. I'm doing Politics Nation Live today and tomorrow, and then going to Los Angeles. I'll be doing the eulogy for Valentina, the young 14-year-old girl shot through the door of the dressing room. Police came in a store in California. There was a man that was acting unruly in a department store, and the police started shooting so reckless that one of the bullets ricocheted and went through the dressing room door and killed this 14-year-old young Latino woman in her mother's arms. And I'm going to go out and do the funeral. I want you to pray for that family. It doesn't matter to me the race of the cop or the victim. Recklessness must be fought and stopped, and we must stand up for the proper policing no matter what it is and who it is. But before I get into all of that, and I have a lot to talk about, you know, the voting rights and a lot of issues that bubble up this week, one of the things that I really wanted to deal with was this situation of how we deal with a balanced and real fight about crime in this city. Alvin Bragg, who many of you voted for, my daughters and Gwen Carr campaigned for, all of us supported, because he had a rational, balanced plan around crime. The disproportionate victims of crime happen to be people of color, particularly black people. We are not soft on crime. We are the ones that want to see a balanced approach that would save us from the criminals and from police that operate in a criminal manner. And to project our community that we are in any other way than that is a false projection. When I read the stories, and I really try to stay out of the local political stuff, I really did mean when we named it National Action Network that we were going to be national, and we are. We got 120 chapters. We got offices in 6 cities. We got offices in L.A. where I'm on my way. But when I started reading the distortions of what the Manhattan District Attorney now, not the candidate, was saying, there was no difference between what he was saying and what he ran on. I mean, I don't understand what was the shock. He ran saying we need a balanced approach to we do not need to fill up the courts and the jails with things that should not be litigated that way, so that we have room for the people that ought to be in jail and in court. That's what he ran on. And that's what the majority of the people in the county of Manhattan voted for. So it's not about letting the criminals out. It's making room so you got room in the court and the jails for the real criminals to be in. You almost ain't got room at Center Street for the real criminals, for people that ought to be handled another way, clogging up what should be where we clean up the streets. The guns and the robberies and the homicides are disproportionate in our community. We're not soft on crime, but we're also not soft on facts. And let's be factual about how we fight crime. And that's why I called, and so I didn't even go through the chapter, Katrina and Derek and them. I called the Manhattan DA myself and asked him, would he come and speak this morning to the community so people are clear on what he's saying and what he's not saying. And I called him yesterday. He said, I'll be there in the morning. And he's been here many mornings. He come when we wasn't invited because he live in Harlem. I mean, now I understand some reporters and stuff have a political agenda. I understand that. But I want the people to understand what he's saying and what he's not saying. Because some of y'all can get confused. And you need to hear it straight up from him, because he's saying what he ran on, and what he ran on, he won on. And some folk just need to be clear. I bring you the district attorney of the county of New York County, Manhattan to be specific, from the downside to the upside, from Wall Street to 145th Street, D.A. Alvin Bragg.
God is good. This is a day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. It's been a long week, but I still have Thanksgiving in my heart. Thankful first to Reverend Sharpton. He's been through the storm, right? This isn't his first week. He's seen just about everything, and he's been standing up for our community, as he said, not just right here in Harlem, but nationwide, talking about fairness and safety and justice for all for years. So I thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for your leadership. And I'm thankful to you. Y'all voted for me. And as Reverend said, we were specific. We said we were going to marry fairness and safety. And we laid out a specific plan. We put it on the website. We put it in print. And this week, after January 1st, we got down to work. And we are doing what we said we would do. We know that our first civil right is the right to walk safely to our corner store. But we also know that safety has got to be based in our community and fairness, and cannot be driven solely by incarceration. We need investment in our neighborhoods, and we do need to address our significant safety concerns. So that's what we set out to do. That's what we started to do this week, and I thank Reverend Sharpton for his invitation, because there have been, let me just say, some misunderstandings. We know change is hard, but it doesn't have to be this hard. So let me say, for anyone who needs to hear it, and I don't think y'all need to hear it because you know me, my top priority, and I've been talking about this not just for 2 years, but for decades, is guns. If you walk these streets, you know that. And I've walked these streets. So let me be clear to anyone I'm introducing myself to. I've had a semi-automatic weapon pointed at my head. I've been shot at. And just late last year, I had walked to a crime scene with more than 20 shell casings on the ground with my 2 young children just to get home. So don't tell me about guns. I know about guns. And I know it from my work, too. Y'all didn't just vote for me because I showed up and I said I'm a kid from Harlem. You voted for me because I've done the work. I've been a federal prosecutor. I've been a state prosecutor. I've prosecuted people for gun possession. I've prosecuted people for armed robbery. I've worked on gun trafficking. So again, let me be clear to all those who I may be reintroducing myself to. If you go into a store in Manhattan and use a gun to rob that store, that is armed robbery, that is serious, and we'll be prosecuting armed robbery in Manhattan. Y'all don't need to hear that because y'all know, and that's just obvious. But to anyone who needs to know, there it is. I've also been partnering with law enforcement for the past 20 plus years. Prosecutors can't do this work alone. I know when I sit in my seat and we do a search warrant or something like that, I'm at the computer and we send out courageous men and women into harm's way and they do the hard work. So to all my partners in law enforcement, let's also be clear about another thing. If you are assaulted, that is a serious matter and a crime, and that will be prosecuted as such in the county of New York, Manhattan. I've also done that work. I've done this going back decades, prosecuting those who assault our law enforcement partners. And look, democracy is about robust discourse. We did it on the campaign trail. That discussion does not stop just because we're in government. So I look forward to talking to all of our stakeholders in the system about the plans as we move forward. But what I want to be unequivocal about is that what I just said about safety can't stand alone. We have to invest in our communities, right? We've lived through the 80s. We've lived through the present, right? Gun crime is on the rise. Domestic violence is on the rise. We've got sexual assaults. That's what's going on with the status quo. So we know we need a change to address that. And the way to do that, partner with traditional public safety methods, is to invest in our communities. Racial disparities, rife in our system. We criminalize poverty every day of the week. We criminalize addiction. We've all seen the story of the person who's on their 8th arrest, and people say, well, how'd this happen? How'd that assault happen? Well, there were 7 prior times with that person struggling with addiction or mental health. We didn't connect that person to services. This is going to make us safer. It's intuitive. It's common sense. I don't understand the pushback. So in and of itself, that's going to make us safer. Investing in our communities. It's also going to give us, as Reverend suggested, more resources to focus on what we know is the most important. And we know this. We don't need to read a newspaper. We live it every day. It's going to give us the resources to focus on guns and to focus on domestic violence. And that is what you elected me to do, to marry fairness and justice. So, look, it's been a long week. I'm new to politics, but I'm steadfast. We're going to stay the course. As the good book says, we're going to keep fighting the good fight. And one thing that I am certain of is that if we continue to be guided by the word, keep focused and driven by the Spirit, connected to one another, if we put our hand in his hand and we stand shoulder to shoulder, we know what the word says. It says we can do anything, that we will rise up on wings like eagles. We will run and not grow weary, walk and not be faint. God bless you, Ned family. We're in this together. We're going to achieve justice and fairness and safety for all of Manhattan.
The DA, give him a hand. Alvin Bragg. There's not a whole lot of DAs get standing ovation at the House of Justice. Let's welcome our Impact Television family joining us. Now, let me say this in my own way of explaining what he has just explained. I grew up in Brownsville, and I know a lot of y'all are middle class and upper class, but we had roaches. Now, that's those little insects that you didn't want. You know, I know a lot of y'all didn't know nothing about that, but we had roaches. And one thing I knew about roaches is that you wanted to get roaches out or you wanted to kill a roach. And my mother would tell us, get the roach spray, or you get the roach and you get them with your shoe. But we would get chastised if we took the sledgehammer out of the closet to kill a little roach. And that's all he's saying. You don't need a sledgehammer to kill a roach. Use your slipper and use your sledgehammer to knock down what sledgehammers do. I figure I'd put a little preacher spin on it because I don't think y'all understand. Y'all run around knocking down the whole building to kill a roach and then wonder why the building knocked down. We need the building of what is going on with guns and violent crimes to have the focus of the prosecutor's office. We do not need them backlogged with stuff when we have homicides in our community and they're dealing with things that ought to be dealt with differently. And those that are pro the criminal are the ones that are letting the criminals not be the focus of the prosecutor's office. Y'all got that? All right. Now, since Brother Bragg preached, I figure I'd do a little DA-ing for him. Let me also say that I neglected to say, didn't we enjoy Reverend Wilkes this morning? Didn't she? Several things. First of all, I want us to watch this week President Joe Biden came out and said last week that we cannot let the filibuster stand in the way of voting rights. This has been something that we in National Action Network and others have been on him about for months. He's finally said it. On January 6th, 2 days ago, both Vice President Harris and President Biden, dealing with the day a year later of the insurrection, talked about how we cannot divorce the insurrection, the violence that happened on the Capitol that day, from the drive to rob us of our right to vote and our protection of the right to vote. On Tuesday, he's going to Atlanta and speak. He's invited me and other civil rights leaders to be present. What we saw on January 6, 2021 was the feeling of those that wanted to change us as a country back into the days where you decided who was elected rather than the people decided. You saw, a lot of people miss this. I listen to a lot of people talking, and the main thing they forget is the reason there was the Capitol insurrection was to stop the certification of the election. It wasn't targeted at Biden, it was targeted at us. It was to say that the will of the voters should not be certified, which in effect is a coup d'etat. And they went in the building saying in clear, loud shouts that they were looking for Nancy Pelosi, looking for Mike Pence. Can you imagine if at any of the marches this organization had last year, this year, if we had stormed the Capitol, that there would have been a reaction like was given to them? Imagine that. We had 200,000 people in Washington last year at our March on Washington. Another 50,000 came this year, both in the middle of a pandemic. Not one rock thrown, not one arrest either year. And here you have people that claim to be the patriots storming the Capitol, kicking in doors, calling for the death of the vice president and the Speaker of the House around a big lie that some election was stolen. One thing I like that, that Biden said, which was true, and Biden, I told them that he need to use that kind of passion more often. How can you say that the top of a ballot was fraudulent, but the rest of the ballot was valid? And you vote on the same ballot. They don't give you a slip over here for president and everything else over here. It's all on the same ballot. So if you rob the president, you rob the governors and the senators and the members of Congress. Everything on that ballot was robbed. So how are Republican governors and senators saying that they misdid or in some ways robbed the president, but that they were duly elected? And it was on the same ballot, same count. Donald Trump knows he lost that. What he is trying to do, one, his ego is so fragile. And y'all know I know Trump. I've been fighting Trump for 35 years. I fought Trump when Trump took out ads against the Central Park Five. And I marched on Trump and said that it was wrong and racist. And we ended up being right, so right that every Saturday, one of the Central Park Five is here, including this Saturday. Stand up, Kari Weiss. He did 13 years in jail for a crime he did not commit. And we stood by him. They called us everything but a child of God. And we stood by him. Trump said they should get the death penalty. We said that they were forced into what they did. That's why this community has always wanted balance in the district attorney's office. So as Alvin Bragg is here this morning, one of Central Park 5, a victim of a DA's office. Eric Garner's mother's here, who a DA would not bring to court her case. That's why we want balance in the DA's office. We're not looking for favors, but we're looking not to have disfavors and to be denied what everybody else should have. And that goes right back into this whole thing of voting rights. One of the things, I want y'all to be real clear on this. When they started the American experiment, when we saw this nation come together in Philadelphia, and they began with the whole question of the Bill of Rights, 1787, then 1776, then 1787, the U.S. Constitution. We must remember that that didn't start our journey. That our journey, is that Reverend? Come on up. That's one of our national board members, pastor of Mount Nebo Baptist Church. Reverend, come on, Reverend Johnny Green. I want you to come on. I want the press to know that Harlem pastors is here with the DA this morning. You could tell Johnny didn't even dress to come to the rally. He heard the DA on the radio and turned his car around and come. You know, I know Johnny. Johnny was at the church probably getting ready to go play golf. He said, wait a minute, let me go up there and support the DA this morning. 1776 was not where we got started. 1787 was not where we got started. We were brought here in 1619. So we were enslaved before there was even a government formed. I want y'all to understand that. So when they formed the government, one of the things that they did, when they did the Bill of Rights first, then formed the government with the Constitution, they were not talking about us. All men are created equal. They did not see us as men. Therefore, they did not give us the right to vote. One of the ways to assure that you would never see a reduction of white supremacy is to make sure that blacks could not vote. In fact, only white males could vote. For a while, only white males that own land could vote. They set up voting for the privileged white males. That's how important voting was and is, because they always wanted to use voting to protect their interests. That's how come those running around talking about, I don't see why we need to vote, what we get out of voting, they do not understand you are co-signing your own demise. They would not take something from you if it was not of value. Somebody break in your house, they don't rob your dirty cloth, your dirty wash rag. They rob stuff that's of value. The reason they are trying and have always tried to deny us the right to vote is that if we can protect and have the right to vote, we can put in office people that will take care of our interests. So what January 6th was about was stopping the certification of what, in fact, the people had decided that Donald Trump had lost. The largest turnout of a presidential election in the history of this country. But don't be deceived. Joe Biden got more votes than any president in history. But second was Donald Trump. Which meant there's a whole lot of folk in this country that are on Donald Trump's side. And if we are in any way immobile, they will get away with the January 6th and beyond. They did not leave Washington having done the damage they did and stop. They went into 19 states and changed over 40 laws of voting. And if we do not change that with a John Lewis Voting Advancement Protection Act or a Freedom to Vote Act, those state laws and more will stand. We must have federal law to override that and protect our right to vote. There is nothing more important. We got the next. We celebrate Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King III and National Action Network and I have said that there should be no celebration without legislation. How you gonna have a King Day sale and everything that King stood for is wiped out by what they did January 6th and what they're doing in these states? We need to light this country up and the U.S. Senate up to pass these bills. You want to have King Day, then on King Day, you pass a rule to get around that filibuster and put into law the John Lewis bill. And what we got to do is we have to organize and mobilize in these states as we are doing. That's why we had the big march this year, last year now, because that's how we got it in the first place. I have a new book come out to be in the stores Monday. We got some here today that y'all can get, and called Righteous Troublemakers. One of the reasons I wrote the book, and like I said, you can get some here. You can get it cheaper here. I think they're in the stores for $29. We can sell them for $20 here. Press, we sell them for $25. But no, I'm joking. They'll have that in the paper somewhere. I know. Sharpton shakes down the press. I know. DA didn't arrest him. Tomorrow's headline. But one of the reasons I wanted to write is so that you'd understand not only the stories of those that never got credit, but the events that people don't know. There was a movement in Alabama to get the right to vote. And they were having rallies all over Alabama. There was a rally one night in Marion, Alabama. Marion was the birthplace, the birth city for Coretta Scott King, Dr. King's wife. The Klan came and tried to disrupt the rally and chase people. And as people ran for shelter, one young man was shot by the mob named Jimmy Lee Jackson in Marion, Alabama. They rushed him to the hospital. The nearest hospital was in Selma, Alabama. And he died in Selma. A lady I write about in the book named Amelia Boynton, who lived in Selma, was working on voter registration, trying to get blacks registered to vote. Folk don't know about Amelia Boynton. She was one organizing. She got the young people from SNCC and SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, to come in to support them. Now, all of you that don't study movement, that claim to be activists but don't study activism, that claim to know something. That's why a lot of y'all talk about, I don't want to know what the old folk did. You need to know. Because the same challenges of organizing today were there then, and you need to know how they settled them then so you can settle them now. You're not Zeus born full grown. You was a baby that grew up into being a child, into a teenager, and then to adulthood. You didn't come out at the maternity ward and say, I don't want no mama and daddy. Your butt would have been still laying up there in the maternity ward. Somebody had to feed you and nourish you. And these movements were nourished. Amelia Boykin brought them into Selma. Reason I bring that up, even in those days, there were differences of tactics and differences of approaches. And that's why, if you understood that then, that was there then, you'd understand it now. Martin Luther King wasn't the only leader. In fact, there were young folk in SNCC that didn't like Dr. King. They would say, we don't want to hear that preacher talk. Here come the Lord. He gonna get all the publicity. So you had SNCC on one side. You had Dr. King on another. You had the nation, Malcolm X. You had others. You had CORE. You had the NAACP. All of them had different tactics. But they all said we need to protect people. When Jimmy Lee Jackson got killed, the Selma movement started because of the death and murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson. As they got started, Dr. King would come to Selma, and he would stay at Miss Boynton's house. Y'all need to read this book. Why'd he stay at her house? Because they still were dealing with the residue of segregation, where it was not allowed or even convenient for blacks to check in hotels. So everybody stayed at her house. Dr. King and go back and forward. They'd have the meetings in Miss Boynton's house. As they got ready to mobilize, they said, we're going to march to Montgomery, the state capital, and demand the right to vote. State capital was 55 miles from Selma. Dr. King said, all right, y'all start the march. I'll meet y'all on the way. Some of the people in SNCC, some of the young students said, we ain't marching. We want to do other things. Hosea Williams said, well, I'll be there. I'm on Dr. King's staff. We'll march with you, Miss Boynton. John Lewis, who was the head of the Student Nonviolent Committee, stood up to those in his own organization and said, we need to march with them. And even some of them that wouldn't go with him, some went. And that's when they went to the Edmund Pettus Bridge that Sunday. The bickering you hear now was always bickering. Reason why you don't see me getting a lot of these little fights is because they always been fights. You know, I grew up in the Pentecostal church. I didn't know preachers could cuss till I got in the civil rights movement. I mean, cuss worse than some of you street folks. I know one preacher could cuss in between syllables. He didn't get to the next word. He get to the first part of the word cuss and then finish the word. There's always been bickering. But Dr. King would always say, it is not the thesis or the antithesis, it's the synthesis. Let's find the mid-ground. And they found the mid-ground. And John Lewis and Hosea Williams led that march to the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Right behind them was Amelia Boynton, where they all stayed at her house. That's when the troopers charged and beat them on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We talk about how John Lewis was beaten and brutalized, and he was. Some talk about how Hosea was beat, and he was. But they don't talk about Amelia Boynton was tear gassed and beat to the ground. And what was worse for her is she had to live in Selma after they was gone. But she stood up despite the risks and took that beating and took that tear gassing and stayed in her house and never moved. And even after they won and got the voting rights bill, because of what happened in Selma, she had to endure threats. She had to endure wondering any day would they bomb her house. I tell y'all that is because we earned and paid for the right to vote with our blood and with death. Jimmy Lee Jackson died to give us the right to vote. Students came from around the country and went to Mississippi. Some of the young folks that wasn't with Dr. King, that was with Snick, had the Mississippi Summer, Freedom Summer they called it. Among those that went down there were two Jews and a black, Goodman, Cheney, and Swerner. They killed them, mowed them down with their eyes open. But all of that led to the right to vote. Here we are, almost 60 years later, 58 to be exact, and all we have to do is get two Democrats to stay in line with their own party. Nobody beating us on no bridge, nobody mowing us down and killing us and putting us in hidden graves in Mississippi. No threat like that. Too lazy and ungrateful to stand up and tell these folk, you got to give us the protection that was paid for in the blood of our ancestors. Right to vote is how we were able to take people like Trump out of office. Trump lied. Trump lost the election and lied. And the way you fight Trump is not with a big lie yourself. We lie on each other. We are treating each other Trump-like. That's why I wanted the DA here today. We cannot beat Trump-like and beat the Trumpism that has predominated our political life in this country. Well, I heard that they're going light on crime. You heard nothing. You're dealing with the big lie. I wonder who's behind Eric Adams. The folk that voted for him. Wonder why Tish James really didn't run. 'Cause she's going to be the Attorney General on. You're looking for stuff ain't there. 'Cause you are been taught the big lie. And it is a slave mentality that has permeated us, that we learn to distrust each other and embrace and believe and trust those that are opposed to us. I told y'all last week that people were arguing about even this block, like I'm going to develop the block. I don't own nothing to do with no development. All I want is the state National Action Network's rent right here. We're talking about they going to benefit. How are we going to benefit paying rent? I ain't the developer. I hope they do all the affordable housing and everything else they do, but I am not in it. But you rather put a lie in us than to deal with the truth. And we cannot win unless we put the truth on our side. It was the truth that made Amelia Boynton have the guts to stand up and fight for the right to vote. It was the truth that made Dr. King do what he did. I talk about in the book a woman named Claudette Colvin. Most folk don't even know who she is. Claudette Colvin, Johnny Green, sat down in the front of the bus in Montgomery, Alabama, 9 months before Rosa Parks. They asked her to give up her seat. She refused to move. And in fact, her lawyer Fred Gray ended up being the lawyer for Rosa Parks. The community would not rally around Claudette. Why? Because she was dark-skinned, and she was pregnant and not married. And they said she got the wrong image. Like Reverend Wilkes, you got to have the right image to be a victim. One of the reasons that National Action Network grew to where it is now nationally, Johnny Green to tell you, is that some of those that claim to be in civil rights wouldn't stand up for some of the folks we would stand up for. Because they didn't have the right pedigree, and they didn't have the right lineage. But we fought for folk that nobody else would fight for. Because I don't care what their background was. I don't care if they were school dropouts. I don't care if they had had trouble with the law. If they were done wrong, folk that are righteous are supposed to stand up and fight for them. Well, Reverend Al, what was their background? They didn't have their background on their backs when they got shot down. They called us in '99 about Amadou Diallo. First thing one big preacher asked me, did he have his green card? The man shot at him 41 times, unarmed. That's why when we came to Harlem, started 30 years ago in the school and finally got a headquarters, that's why Reverend Jesse Jackson, who cut the ribbon that night with Mayor Dinkins, said we need a house of justice. And that's where we tried to be for Eric Garner's and all. That's why I like to be on the ground. That's why I'm fighting to make sure we stay. I don't want no big cathedral. I want a big storefront where people can roll out the street no matter how they dress. Some of y'all come here on Saturday morning with your head bad from the Friday night party. I know we got church folk and folk that just on the way home from the party. I would say some of y'all, I'll just say y'all was drinking. I won't talk about y'all that smoke weed. It ain't legal yet, and the DA's here, and I'm not trying to snitch on nobody. But some of y'all know how y'all come up in here. But I wanted a house of justice open for everybody. You ain't got to have a certain background. Because it was folks with no background that broke down the walls of segregation. It was folks with no background that were too dark-skinned, that had made mistakes in life, but they opened the door for you cutie, pedigreed, highfalutin Negroes to get the job you got. There wouldn't have been a Barack Obama if it hadn't been for Amelia Boykin. There wouldn't have been a Kamala Harris if it hadn't been for Claudette Colvin. And we got to keep on fighting that. That's why I come out with this book. Ordinary people did extraordinary things. And unless we understand that you ain't got to be special, all you have to do is have a special commitment and a special energy around dealing with these special problems. I told you many times about several years ago, New York Daily News did a search on my ancestors, found out my great-grandfather was named Coleman Sharpton. And he was a slave in Edgefield, South Carolina. And I went down there, Rachel Nordlinger went with me. And I went down to Edgefield and went to the plantation he worked at. And Coleman Sharpton was the name, his owners named him Sharpton. He was owned by the Sharptons. So we don't really know our name. But I thought about the other day, I was going D.A. Bragg to the White House, I thought about how if I were to sit down with the heirs of the Sharptons. You would have the great-grandson of my owners sit down and talk to the great-grandson of the slave. And it would be an interesting conversation because the great-grandfather that was the slave owner never looked at Coleman and thought that Coleman would ever produce anything. That's why it gives me a sense of obligation to tell our story. Because when I walk in the White House, I'm Coleman's boy that you thought would never do nothing but pick cotton and use tobacco. I'm Coleman's boy that you thought didn't have the right to an education, that should never be taught to read and write, and now I'm on my 5th book. I'm Coleman's boy. That you didn't want to get the right to vote, but Coleman's boy helped the first black president of the United States. I'm Coleman's boy. And if we embrace who we were and thank God for where he brought us, then we can make it and sustain a movement. We are not those that didn't win. We won every battle we fought. Only battle that we lost is the battles we wouldn't fight. That's why I stood and watched the pain of a Gwen Carr when the DA wouldn't even take the case of what happened to Eric Garner. Take the case. There was prima facie evidence. Take it and let a jury decide. Wouldn't even prosecute it. But I saw the joy in her face when she went with me to Minneapolis and stood for the George Floyd family and those policemen, because we didn't stop fighting, ended up being held accountable. When we see this week, who would have ever thought in rural Georgia, I mean, you talk about culture shock. In rural Georgia, some of y'all that went with me to Brunswick will tell you that this ain't Atlanta. This is not Metropolis, Georgia. This is in the woods. Because of the pandemic, you couldn't have room service at the hotel. So we'd ride downtown near the courthouse, and I had the guy, whoever was traveling with me, Chris Ford or somebody, go in the store and get me a tea. And you looked, they had the trees. You'd have thought we was in a set from Gone with the Wind. That's how rural it is. I told you, I thought Clark Gable and it was getting ready to come out. But in rural Georgia, 11 whites who gonna have to live in that town, 11 whites whose kids gonna go to school with the kids of the people they convicted. 11 whites said that I'm not gonna continue to look at color, I'm gonna look at the law. You are guilty of murder. And then yesterday, a white judge sat on the bench looking at a black mother and a black father talk about the value of their son. Y'all thought black lives didn't matter. Let me tell you about my boy. Wanda said, I wish he had cut his toenails and cleaned them, but he wasn't expecting to be murdered that day. Maybe if he knew he was dressing up for his funeral, he'd have got cleaner, but you killed my boy. And that judge sat there and listened to the mama and the daddy. And he said, let me start the sentencing by this. I want y'all to stop for 1 minute. He put the clock on him. Said, I want y'all to know in that minute, that's where y'all gave Ahmed. And because you gave him that minute, I'm going to give y'all life without parole. Because you took a life, and for the rest of your life, I want you to think about the life you took. There were those that said, I don't know why y'all march, I don't know why y'all raising sand, but yesterday tell you why. If you keep on fighting, even in unlikely places, truth and God will make a way and reward those that are faithful over a few things. Oh, this ain't gonna work. No, you ain't gonna work. You think that power is just gonna roll over because you showed up with a hashtag? We done been marching, and we got marched some more. They walked 365 days in Montgomery before they were able to stop that bus company from discriminating. You go to 3 rallies and talk about this don't work. You some microwave activists. You don't cook and bake and build a movement. Microwave. If it don't heat up quick enough for you, you on to something else. But some of us are long distance runners. Some of us read that scripture that said the race isn't given to the swift, nor to the strong, but to those that endure to the end. Some of us was raised by folks that said he may not be there when you want him, but he's always on time. Some of us was raised by single mamas on welfare that say the Lord will make a way out of no way. The Lord will make a way somehow. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me now. The Lord will make a way. That's why our movement's strength has always been our belief. Believe what we couldn't see, but know who's in charge. Faith is not what you can see. Faith is what you can't see. You know, I loved, Barack Obama wrote a book about hope. And Rev Jackson, one of my mentors, talked about keep hope alive. Hope is hoping everything will work out. Hope is saying that I really believe in hope that everything goes the right way. But faith is a sister to that that's a little deeper. Because faith is knowing that it's going to work out. Faith is a little step further. Faith is that I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen. Faith is that I can't give you an itemized strategy, but I know it's going to happen. Faith is it ain't up to me to figure out the steps, but I know that we're going to arrive there some way, somehow. Faith is when the doctors give up, diagnose you and say, we can't do nothing for you, but then you get on your knees and call on another doctor. Faith is when you got a pile of bills and no money, but you say he will provide all of my needs. Faith is when your friends turn their back, when your loved ones, your family deny your name, but you say, I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me now. We come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in his holy word. He never failed me yet. When I look where he brought me from and look where he brought me to, I'm Coleman's boy. 5 o'clock this evening, turn on MSNBC. Coleman's boy will be on, talking to the whole nation. I'm going to fly on to Hollywood and stand up for a Latino girl. I'm Coleman's boy. I'm going to fly from there to Atlanta and meet the President of the United States. I'm Coleman's boy. A slave, a cotton picker, someone you thought was nothing, but if God be for us, if God be for us, if God be for us, it's more than the whole world against us. Stand up, be proud, stick your chest out, and know that God will make a way somehow. I know the Lord will make a way. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
I know the Lord will make a way. Oh, yes, he will. I know the Lord will make a way. Oh, yes, he will. Oh, he'll make a way for me and you. Oh, I know the Lord will see us safely through, and I know the Lord will make a way. Oh, yes, he will. I've got a Savior who I can tell all my troubles to. When I'm in despair and I don't know just what to do, I go to him in secret prayer. Oh, 'cause I know the Lord will take every worry and care. And I know the Lord will make a way. Oh, yes, he will. Yes, I know the Lord will sure enough make a way. Oh, yes, he will. I know the Lord will make a way. Oh, yes, he will. Ah, ooh, he'll make a way for me and you. Yes, the Lord, he will. Sure enough, will see us safely through. And I know the Lord will make a way. Oh, yes, he will. Oh, yes, he will.
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. Everybody's singing. Everybody sing. Everybody's singing. We want justice. We want freedom. We want justice. I'm opening the doors of the movement. And let me say that we are not just a movement. that is anti-police brutality. We're anti-violence. And what the press won't write is just like, yes, I'm going to preach this eulogy for this young lady in L.A., and I did George Floyd's funeral, and I did the other funerals. I also did the funeral of the one-year-old kid killed by gang violence in Bed-Stuy 3 weeks after I did George Floyd. They won't talk about that. I did the basketball kid's funeral that was killed by gang violence, by other blacks. That's why this is a place of justice. And those families, I supported those families, paid for the funeral of 2 of them, of gun violence. That's why we can invite the DA here, because he knows we are on both sides of the issue, whether it be gun violence or police violence. Because we got to stop both of it. So I want to open the doors of the movement. You that are here that may not be a member of National Action Network, there's no better day to join than as we prepare to keep this fight for voting rights going. All you have to do is come down either out to me. You that are listening on radio, you can go online and join, or you can call our toll-free number, 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651, or www.nationalactionnetwork.net. And if you want the book, it's out Monday, but you can get it today. You can, if you're not here, you can get the information on the phone. But if you're here and not a member, come on to me now and let me sign you up to the National Action Network. Don't worry about who's looking. Everybody that joined, they had to do the same walk. We was looking at them. Come on to me. Everybody's singing. Come on. If you're not a member and want to join, everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. All right, now I want to get ready to raise our offering. I thank you. I know you got other things you got to do, District Attorney. I'm going to let him go. I don't want them saying, did he give an offering? No, I let him go for a raise offering. They be auditing him for, did he give $1 in the offering? Thank you for being with us. Give a hand to our DA. Give him a hand, come on. All right, I'm gonna raise our Saturday offering. I want everybody, you that are in Radio Land, you can give online. You can give online at www.nationalactionnetwork.net. You that are here, we can get ready to give. 1-877-626-4651. You can call in if you wish.